My family has always been a generation of dreamers. That's why when I saw how my little boy loved to play with kites, I knew it was time to stop dreaming and start investing towards a reality that would make my son's dream to fly come to life. When it comes to investing, it doesn't matter how small you start. What matters is that you start. Because I invested in something long-term, my son is no longer flying kites.
Good morning, passengers. Welcome aboard this flight. I'm your pilot for this flight. We have got taxi and we'll be taking off in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Money grows. Be a part of the generation of future investors by investing in stocks and bonds on the Zambian capital market. The Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting investors in the capital market.
Good evening and welcome to this special series called Money Mysteries, brought to you by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Today we are going to be highlighting the importance of understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags to avoid fraudulent schemes. And we'll also be recapping on the recent episode, that's episode 1 of this very series, just understanding why the Securities and Exchange Commission is focusing specifically on these money mysteries. Welcome to the show. My name is Justin Mulenga. Remember that you can be interactive with us as well by simply joining us via our Facebook page. We are streaming live from there. That's Diamond TV Online. Allow me to welcome our guest in studio who will be helping us understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags in Mrs. Chikasuka Phiri Jere from the Securities and Exchange Commission. She is the Acting Director, Enforcement and Legal Services. Ma'am, good evening to you and welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Indeed. Let's start off firstly by just recapping on the first episode, and I understand that from there it was an introductory episode and we're just focusing on why exactly SEC is doing this.
Yes, certainly. So if you watched us last week on our first episode, we had our Director Market Operations just explaining why we have been doing the Money Mystery series, and it's essentially just to educate the public on being a smart investor, why it's important for you to do the proper due diligence, for you to seek investment advice from licensed persons so that you save yourselves from scams and fraud. Yes.
Let's talk about the current topic. And I know for a fact we're looking at understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags. And maybe you could just bring us up to speed with what exactly we're understanding about investment risks and red flags.
Okay. So if you look at I'll also do a recap of I'll use the past episode because we haven't looked at the current episode. You look at get-rich-quick schemes. Those are quite red flags. If you look at an investment, it's a short period, a short-term investment, but it's then promising you high returns. That is a red flag for an investor because money does not just grow on trees that quick. So the moment you hear a short-term kind of pitch, but that's promising you high yields, that's a red flag for an investor, and that should make you ask a lot of questions. How are they making their money in such a short term? How are they going to generate that kind of yield in 2 days? So I think for me, that is the first major red flag that an investor should have. A short term, high yields. How are you going to generate that? How are you going to walk me through the money, walk me through your product and let me understand? When you start asking such questions, you start seeing where the dominoes begin to fall, and everything, or the scheme that is being promoted to you just falls apart altogether.
What then would you recognize as a investment return yield within a specific time frame? I mean, you're saying that if it's short term, then meaning it should be considered as a red flag. Then how long should one wait before they get to see the returns on the investment?
So I'll give you an example. If a bank, the whole year that you serve money with a bank, they are giving you between 7 to 12.5%. in a whole year, in 365 days. Someone comes and tells you that in 2 days, they will be able to give you 35%. That should be a question, because already you have a bank that is licensed telling you that if you save money in our account, we'll be able to give you 12% the whole year. And you have someone who's just coming, walking to you, and they're claiming that in 2 days they can give you 35%. That is a red flag. That should raise questions. So it's that kind of an example that then raises the questions, okay? Treasury bills, for instance, run from 91 days to 364 days. And the most you can get is 12.5%. You get a 91, so you see I'm starting from 91 days to 364 days. Someone comes to you with an investment of less than 91 days, but they are promising you more than what a treasury bill can offer you in even 364 days. That's a red flag. You begin to question such things. And that is why Money Mysteries is there, because people need to be alive. They need to have the knowledge, the know-how of these finances. You don't have to go to a complicated school for you to understand finances. It's small things like that that you and I can pick up that then can help us save our money and be smart investors.
I'd like to talk about this even more, the aspect of an investment provider being licensed. Why is it important for a consumer or an entity that is interested in investing to verify an investment provider being licensed?
I think it's for, first of all, your own peace of mind. Because as an investor, knowing that someone that I'm dealing with is licensed gives me peace of mind. I'm assured that before this person was given that license, the respective regulator did the background checks for me. They met the conditions for that particular license. Okay. It also then gives you a recourse in the event that something that doesn't go right. Where do you turn to? Who do you turn to? If they have a license, you turn to the regulator that gave them that license, okay? And then it just assures you that there's regulatory oversight. The regulator keeps having sight over this licensed person in this field that they have been given a license for. And then there's also conditions that go with the license, such as transparency and Exchange Commission. Our website is always up to date. We make sure that we have the license providers listed there. If you don't want to do that, you can walk into our offices. We are right along Great East Road, opposite East Park. We are very open. You walk through to us and ask us the questions, and we'll be able to guide you and direct you to the list of these license providers.
And with relation, to just the consumer, how often do they come to yourselves, the Securities and Exchange Commission?
We want them to now come as often as possible. And that is why I think we're out there in the public. We want people to know about us. We want people to know that there's actually the Securities and Exchange Commission that is regulating the capital markets. We want them to know that we're actually open. So every time we appear at events such as the trade fair, the agriculture and commercial show, we have road shows. That is the message that we're trying to put across to people. Come to us as often as you can. We want to be reachable as often as we can, because that is the only way that we can protect investors, by being open and providing this information as easily as possible to the investors.
I know a little later on we are going to be talking about some of these Ponzi schemes that tend to pop up. I know there are a lot of them that you yourselves as SEC have been able to report on the last couple of years. But let's talk about one having to become an investment advisor and licensed by yourselves, SEC. Can you tell us what it takes to be an investment advisor, and how can one be licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission?
Okay, so first of all, I think you need to have the requisite qualification for it. Right now, currently in Zambia, we have the Zambia College of Pensions and Insurance Trust that does the investment advisor and stockbrokers course. We also have the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments qualification that is currently being offered by ZICAS because that's the accredited partner in Zambia. So if you have a SEC-approved course, and those are the two courses that I've mentioned, and then you pass the fit and proper criteria. So when we're looking at fit and proper, we're not only looking at competence, but we're also looking at your character. We're also looking at your financial background. Just to make sure that you're not going into this field, get excited when you see money and start misbehaving. So once you pass the fit and proper, you have the requisite qualification, you meet the license conditions, that is, you pay the requisite license fees that's what it takes. Yes.
And once, investment advisor meets all these expectations from your end, what's the longevity before they can be cleared off and said, okay, you're good to go to be an investment advisor?
So if you look at our current Securities Act, you're actually required to give a response within 90 days. Otherwise, they will be deemed as to have been granted the license. So we ensure that from the time that you submit a complete application, we do not take more than 90 days, because our Act is very categorical on how long we can take for us to respond with a yes or a no. So we do make sure that once you submit a complete, so everything complete, if it's not complete, time does not run. But once it's complete, we have 90 days for us to respond to you, to give you a yes or a no.
Let's speak more on the investment provider. I know that we've talked about why it's important to have these investment providers be verified and see if they're licensed. Who is considered as an investment provider? Can I be an investment provider as an individual, or I need to be a conglomerate of companies?
No, you actually can be an investment advisor as yourself, as an individual. If you look at our license conditions, we have institutions and we have individuals. So if you, as an institution comes, then if you work for an institution, for instance, Diamond TV gets that license, you as a representative of Diamond TV, you need to get a representative license. But the one who will hold the actual license is Diamond TV. But individuals can get that license if you have those qualifications and requirements that we talked about earlier. Yes.
What are some of the advantages for an investment advisor to be in line with what the legalities say from your end as the Securities and Exchange Commission, if I want to be properly licensed?
Okay, so what are some of the advantages? Some
of the advantages, yes.
I think it's in line with national interests and goals. I think our president always talks about how there is need for more jobs. There is need for it to drive economic growth, right? So for an investment advisor, you do the right thing. There's work there. There's revenue, there's income, because as you're giving the advice to people, people are paying you for that advice that you're getting. And I think if you look at our Act, that is one of the qualifying factors that makes someone an investment advisor. If you give advice on any investment and you get a commission for it, you need to be licensed as an investment advisor. But if you're just giving like general guidance, it's general to the public, you're not getting any commission for it. That is an exception of someone who doesn't require a license. But the moment you start getting paid for it, then you become you need to have a license. So the advantages are, it's part of creating jobs. You get some money, and then you're also you're going to be an ambassador, because then you're now teaching people, you're making people financially literate, which is what we're trying to do. And I think the SEC alone cannot do this on their own. So we need partners. And what are these partners? The licensed investment advisors will be our partners to spread the word on financial literacy.
And one of the things that I think can be considered as advantage is that you are being considered as a legal rather as a law-abiding citizen,
yes.
As you seek the services of SEC. But let's talk about some of the prerequisites frequently asked questions by those who would like to get a license, be licensed by yourselves, the Securities and Exchange Commission. From the prerequisites, I know that you've indicated that, okay, this is what you need, but I'm pretty sure there's a specific thing that tends to confuse a potential investment advisor.
Probably it's the courses, because normally we just say SEC accredited course, okay? But I have mentioned the two that are currently in Zambia. So go to the Zambia College of Pensions and Insurance Trust, go to ZICAS. Those two are accredited. We recognize them as SEC, as the accredited courses, okay? And then the aspect of the fees. What fees do you pay? If you look at our license conditions, we have, I think, two sets of fees. So you have the institution and you have the individual. What kind of fees do I pay? For an individual, they pay close to 17,000 kwacha. For an institution, you pay about 5,000 kwacha. That is always confusing. And also the aspect of, do I need to show my financial statements? when I'm applying. Yes, you do need to show your financial statements when you're applying, because you'll be dealing with clients. We want to know what kind of temperament do you have when it comes to finances. We want to know that. So that is also something that is important for you to disclose. What do your finances look like, so that we know what kind of a person are we letting into the public to start conversing with the public on investments and getting a commission for that.
I'd like to talk about the advancement of technology now, and I know that you much early on give us direction as to where you are located for somebody to pay you a visit, which is you being opposite East Park Mall. Yes. But is there provision for this to be done online? Is there a platform where, if I don't have the time to come to your offices, can I engage somebody from SEC on the digital space for me to get this done?
Yes, so we now have supervisory technology. It was launched recently. We have a link where you can go and make your application. You don't have to come physically. And of course, we're trying to go green. We're going green. So we want to use less paper and I think onboard some technology. So we do have a platform where you can make your application online in the comfort of your home or wherever it is that you are. You don't need to come to the commission.
How user-friendly is this platform? I know a lot of people tend to also shy away from technology. It's a bit too complex, especially if you're visiting websites. And, you know, we tend to be more aligned with doing things a traditional way. But when we speak technology, a lot of people tend to not want to, you know, be aligned with that because of how complex it is. But from your platform, how user-friendly is it? It's
very user-friendly. I think from the time that it was launched, we had a couple of people actually doing it using the online platform. And because the new generation is quite tech-savvy and they're excited, so we're hoping to see more and more traffic coming that way. But I think from the time that we launched it, we had a couple of applications being made that way. And because it's in the first phase, it's always okay to give us feedback on whether it's working or not. But as far as I'm concerned, we haven't had any terrible feedback as yet, but it's good to just hear from those that have interacted with the platform. What do they think? Is it user-friendly? From our end, it's easy for us to say it's user-friendly, but for people that have actually engaged with it, it would be good to get that feedback from them.
And then you've made it much easier, obviously, for those that are utilizing your platforms. I'd like to speak also, especially when you talk about this aspect of recognizing red flags, and one would ask, what happens from your end as the Securities and Exchange Commission when somebody reports saying that, look, I've detected that there is something wrong with this investment advisor, and they come to you with this? What are the steps that follow from your end as SEC?
Okay, so we do open an inquiry. We take that complaint seriously, and we do we do conduct investigations in the background to just establish the veracity of these allegations or claims. And if it is found that truly there is someone who's abrogating the securities regulatory framework, we do have in our Act enforcement actions that we can take. We can do public censures, we can do private censures, we can actually impose administrative fines on this person. When it crosses over to criminal, we do have capacity to then transfer this matter to the relevant law enforcement agencies for them to take up that particular case on the criminal side.
Well, we'll be talking about that even further, and looking through a checklist before investing and how one can be able to report any irregularities. Remember that you are watching this series called Money Mysteries, and our focus is on understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags. Our guest in studio, Mrs. Jere, has been able to indicate to us a few things that you might want to put in place before you invest, or if you are planning to be an investment advisor. These are the steps that you should be able to follow. But let's get to take a listen to this clip. And it's focusing pretty much on you having to go through a checklist before investing. And after that particular clip, we go straight into a break. And on the other side, the conversation continues after these short messages.
Make your money
in 2 days.
Nati make your money
In 2 days.
Now as my last time peni nabwera pano nakuuzani kuti kulimopangira ndalama. You invest the money and people give you back the money. Now these are papers yama ploti of your friends from the other market. Mumbera market. Now imwe na imwe mukatipasa ife ndalama. We will invest the money. Upon investing the money, we will give you back some more money. You, me, tingankare manje wosiana, life yosianako. Mumberaka? That's why even me have come here. Wirani to my offices yatu, we will change your life. Munga mweta kamila, make your money
In 2 days.
Thank you very much. Now with that said, number as mine 0973.
It is all good.
Chani.
Even a Moses if I take the Moses.
Tinga Chani, Lydia. What do you mean? Dalamazato.
Everything is good.
Lydia.
Once, hold on.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
In network.
The number you dialed is not a working number.
Once a chamber train at the chairman gets Muslim somewhere and top apart. I better go in there.
I worked every day.
Mary. Mary. Hey. Ulikwi?
Sorry about it.
Ulikwi kwino? Ndefa komsana.
Okay.
Visa.
Hungry?
Yebo. Ibidi.
Ifuna kamoja kubili. Every day, saving kwacha by kwacha, and now it's gone. Oh. How do I tell my family that I have nothing left?
Nishinga.
10 kwacha. Yes.
You are stronger than you think, Mary. If we left here, we need to start from somewhere.
It's true. And we can't always trust what's easy.
Anyway?
Yeah. But we need to think long term. We need to think about our families, our future. Before we jump on anything, we need to make sure we check that investment professionals are licensed. Because jumping into something just like that, we get scammed.
We have learned the hard way. And the way he came like a sweet talk, me, I was just like, Lydia.
Smart.
Muli Corolla.
Right in, eh?
I say.
No, we've learned our lesson.
Watch out for the next episode. This movie is sponsored by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the regulators of capital markets in Zambia.
Is a short film there brought to you by the Securities and Exchange Commission. It focusing on how people get scammed easily. And this particular clip, I think we're going to get into detail now to understand. And our guest in studio in Mrs. Chikasuka Phiri Jere from the Securities and Exchange Commission. She's Acting Director, Enforcement and Legal Services, is still in studio with us, and we get to speak more on this. Now, let's talk about this character in the film who is running through a checklist before investing right at the beginning of, the clip in itself. What really should be considered on one's checklist before you invest?
So at a minimum, check if this person is licensed. And like I said, you can actually check using the SEC website. You can walk through to our offices and check if this provider is licensed. You also have to just walk through the product that they're offering you. What kind of product is it? Walk through it. Let them walk you through the product from start to end. And does it make sense? Is it really possible to make that kind of money within 2 days? What are they investing in where they're going to get that kind of return within 2 days, unless they're a ritualist? Because in the financial market, 2 days, that kind of return. So those are things that you need to just begin to ask yourselves. And then you look at transparency. Are they fully disclosing what kind of fees are involved in this? Another red flag is you get into something, and once you get into it, you start seeing little things popping up, little fees popping up that were never disclosed to you at the beginning. That's a red flag. That should be disclosed to you at the beginning so that you're able then to make an informed decision. So at the barest of minimums, check if someone is licensed. Walk through the product. What kind of product are they offering you? And make sure that there's full disclosure of everything before you enter into this particular scheme. One of the scenes there seems to be referring to this seeming like it's a Ponzi scheme of some sort. Help us understand if this is correct. And if so, what exactly is a Ponzi scheme? Maybe just highlight to the viewer in detail what is considered as a Ponzi scheme. So a Ponzi scheme is essentially old investors being paid using money from new investors. So the chairman, as he was called in the movie, is in the middle, and you're all around this chairman, and he's just passing money from Paul. What Paul pays, he pays Peter. What Peter paid, he paid Mavuto. What Mavuto paid, he pays Paul. So the money circulates like that. It's quite different from a pyramid scheme, because in a pyramid scheme, you are paid based on how many people you on board. So money moves from bottom going up. But with the Ponzi scheme, money is circulating. But both of them fall at the same time, because when money stops to move, then everything stops to move. And that is why when I was talking about the minimum criteria that you need to consider is walk through the product, because it is such walking through the product that you see where the dominoes fall and everything falls. I know that this particular program that we have ongoing can be considered as sensitization right here. But what other things are you doing as SEC to sensitize the general public to stay clear of things that are considered as red flags? Okay, so we have a very active presence on social media. Our Facebook is very active. We have a WhatsApp channel. Our LinkedIn is active as well. We have what we call town hall meetings every last Thursday of the month, where we discuss everything from shares, bonds, investments, how to be a smart investor, scams. We discuss everything, and we open this to the public so that then you can ask your questions in that forum. And then we also participate in World Investor Week. We participate in trade fairs. So we just make sure that our presence is everywhere. We literally have this thing where we go province to province, exhibiting province to province, so that people just understand a little bit more about finances. Finances shouldn't be complicated, because the people with the money might not be the complicated ones. Like you saw in the clip, those were marketeers. They might not have been cum laude degree holders, from Oxford, but they are important because it's their money that is being lost in this particular instance. So we want our presence to be known. We want everyone to be financially literate, everyone to be a smart investor, regardless of your background. I love that you have talked about Ponzi schemes and described them
very different from what a pyramid scheme is. What are some of the Ponzi schemes that the Securities and Exchange Commission has had to deal with in the past? If my memory serves me right, there was one that came up called PGM, and I know that this really did drive the internet crazy at the time that it had popped up. But just walk us through some of the ones that you have received to be considered as red flags. And this is after people have invested already into whatever services or products this Ponzi scheme is offering.
So the PGM that you've mentioned, I think we actually did issue a notice against PGM, and we've had a couple of others, Kamono. We issued statements for these. We issued public notices for these. But I think the issue that we always face when we issue such notices is the public assumes we do not want progress. We do not want people to make money, you know. But when it falls, then they realize why we raised the issue, why we issued a public notice. So we have had a couple of Ponzi schemes, and for each one of them, we do issue out notices to the public so that you are made aware quickly and you stay clear of these schemes.
What happens, you know, after you have received this alert, or rather you give out this alert and then everything falls apart a little later on? You mentioned that you institute an inquiry or an investigation. Do you work with other law enforcers to sort of detect where this all started? Have you also been able to make progress in, you know, catching the perpetrators or, you know, arresting the perpetrators behind some of these Ponzi schemes?
Okay, so the beauty with our act is our reach is as far as a licensed person. So if this complaint comes in and we find that this person is licensed by us and they abrogate it, our enforcement action is against this licensed person. But then we've had instances where a complaint comes and this person does not fall under our jurisdiction. What do we do? That is when now we do engage our sister regulators. There's Bank of Zambia, there's PIA. Probably they fall under their space, do something about it. And we do work with law enforcement agencies. Like I mentioned earlier, we have Zambia Police, we have the Drug Enforcement Commission. We do work with ACC, you know, to deal with what it is that we can't deal. But for us, because it's investor protection, we just don't end at, oh, they don't fall in our space, we let it go there. No, we do go as far as reaching out to sister regulators and reaching out to law enforcement agencies.
Right. How do some of these Ponzi schemes get under the radar? How do they find themselves onto the market? Because you have indicated that you work, you know, with different kinds of entities, but how is it possible that you have certain products making their way to the market and they're considered as Ponzi schemes?
So it's desperation. I think it's a people issue. First of all, we have eyes everywhere, not just from sex staff, but we have amassed quite a number of ambassadors that will alert us to these schemes that are happening. But as to how they make it to the public, everyone is, I always say Zambians are so intelligent, but they use their intelligence in the wrong way. So everyone, even as we're sitting here, someone is scheming and cooking something out there, and they'll take it out at any point, you know. So it's desperation. People are feeding on people's desperation. Hard times, we all want to make money quick. Let me do something. Let me figure out something that I can do and throw out to the public. By the time the regulator is finding out, at least I would have created a storm. So I cannot explain how they get out there, but what I can assure you is people are working overtime. They're feeding on people's desperation. They're feeding on the need for making money quick. And they're getting out there. But what I can assure you is we have our foot soldiers there. We have a number of ambassadors. And I think for the public is to constantly alert the regulators, constantly alert the law enforcement agencies, because it is from you that we get the information.
I think that's a pretty decent way to equally get, you know, the most quickest feedback, and that is interaction with the general public, because they're the ones on ground and they get to see what's happening. Yes. But I'd like to drive you back to something you had said, and you said that you've been sensitizing the general public in various ways. One of the ways is having to have these town hall meetings where you're giving out the necessary information. What sort of reception have you received after getting to interact with, you know, the general public? Have you seen a boost or an increase in some of the reports related to possible red flags?
Yes, we have. And we've also seen, I think, a decrease in people being susceptible to scams because I think people are now recognizing what red flags are. People are now understanding why it's important to do your due diligence. So I think it's working. And the more we do it, I think we'll get to a place where someone can call out a scam immediately. It's spoken to them without them thinking twice about it.
What sort of reception have you received from the general public after engaging them?
So we do now have, I think in most of the town hall meetings that we have, you'll find people commenting in the comment section. There is this particular scheme. Is it fake? You know, at least they start from there. They, you know, you go to our Facebook page, you have people messaging and asking questions. That is the kind of engagement that we want. You go to these public forum or the roadshows that we have, and people are asking the right questions. That is the kind of reception that we have been receiving. So we are seeing a reduction in people susceptible to, especially now that we've broken down financial literacy to this level where everyone can understand it. We are seeing a good number of people understanding and asking the right questions and also hinting to us, there's this particular product, what do you think? And it is from this kind of interaction that now we pick up on certain scams and then we can act on them.
I would like to also understand how you're using now, technology to sort of detect some of these red flags, but at the same time, how you're also dealing with how things are being done traditionally, the common village banking where people would exchange money physically as cash and not electronically. Is this something that you're also looking into, in that, yes, in as much as we're making transactions on the digital space or through electronic platforms, what about the traditional way? Because this is something that we still see happening, especially in rural, peri-urban Zambia.
So our financial education, I think, should go beyond digital, because, yes, we do need to be alive to the fact that we have tech-savvy people and those that are not tech-savvy. Knowing your client does not always have to be tech. You can do your due diligence and know your client or know your investment provider, even through these platforms that you're dealing with. But we want to ensure that even a person in Shangombo is able to then do due diligence without necessarily having a smartphone platform. We do have these USSD kind of provisions where someone without a smartphone can still get access to information. I think those particular facilities are meant for people who are in far rural areas that do not have access to certain things. So I wouldn't want to just segregate due diligence to tech. I would want it to go as far as Shangombo, and I think that is at the heart of our financial education. And the financial education, the market development team is working on that. And I think a USSD kind of platform will be important to reach people who are in the far areas. Maybe we have a USSD code that they can enter, and then it will give them the list of investment advisors or investment providers so that they know whether what they're entering into is licensed or authorized by the Commission.
Let's take another break, and I'll leave you this question to dwell on. If one suspects a scam, what immediate steps should they take? But you are watching this particular series, and courtesy of Securities and Exchange Commission, it is called Money Mysteries. Our topic this evening is understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags. We'll continue with this topic after these short messages. We'll be right back.
Beware, scammers are getting smarter, and with mobile money and digital payments, it's easier than ever to fall for a fake deal. Don't get caught. Before you send money or invest, Make sure you're dealing with a licensed financial service provider. Protect your money. Stay alert. Be a smart investor. This message is brought to you by the Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting investors in the capital markets. Beware, scammers are getting smarter, and with mobile money and digital payments, it's easier than ever to fall for a fake deal. Don't get caught. Before you send money or invest, make sure you're dealing with a licensed financial service provider. Protect your money. Stay alert. Be a smart investor. This message is brought to you by the Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting investors in the capital markets.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. In case you're tuned in, this is Money Mysteries brought to you by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Our topic this evening is understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags. We have our guest in studio here in Mrs. Chikasuka Phiri Jere. She's the Securities and Exchange Commission Acting Director, Enforcement and Legal Services. Before the break, I did leave you with a question, and this is with regards to one suspecting a scam. What are the immediate steps this person should take if they suspect that something is fishy?
So I think the first step, if first of all you have already invested some money, the first thing is for you to stop investing any money. There's no shame in it. I know that there's a lot of shame linked to being scammed, but there's no shame in it because we're all learning, and we learn from our mistakes, and we pick some lessons from there. So you cease. I'm a lawyer by profession, so I like keeping a record of everything. So it's good for you to also just keep a trail of your transactions, your contracts, any agreements that you have with these fraudulent providers. Then also reach out to a regulator. It could be the Bank of Zambia, it could be PAA, it could be SEC, it could be a law enforcement agency. Reach out immediately and report that scam so that then immediate action can be taken.
One of the question marks that I tend to see after an individual has been, scammed is whether they will get to receive back what they had invested, especially if they have been scammed. Have you ever gotten any reports that, investments have returned after, receiving a report that somebody has been scammed or an entity has been scammed?
The challenge in that, like we saw in the clip, is if chairman disappears, where will you find chairman and get that money back? So I think that's one of the risks that's there, especially when you're dealing with unlicensed individuals. With licensed individuals, perhaps it's easier because we have some sort of reach. We know where to find them. We can coordinate with law enforcement, even across the border. We do have cross-border relationships with enforcement agencies there, but in the case where it's an unlicensed individual, where do you find them? So those are some of the risks of dealing with unlicensed individuals. You might not get your money back.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Has there been any instance where perpetrators are brought to book?
Yes, we have instances which I might not be able to talk about now, lest I need to get a lawyer outside of myself, but we do have had instances where people have been brought to book. Yes.
I'd like to speak now, getting back to the video. The influencer in the market was chanting, "Make your money in 2 days." I know that we briefly did touch on this much earlier on, but what distinguishes short-term investments from long-term investments, and what are some of the examples of each?
Okay, so a short-term investment is I'm investing in something that I can reach within a short period. I'll give you an example. I save money in the bank. I can reach that money for emergencies or something that I do want to do in the short term. And these go for a period of up to 364 days, so that's a year. Then when you
that's
move,
considered a short term.
That's considered a short term. When you now move from a year, that's medium to long term. Okay, long term is you do not need the money now. You might need it for the future. It might be your children's fees. It might be your retirement package. That is now long term. So an example of a short term, I've already said a savings account. It can be a fixed deposit. I think I mentioned this earlier, a treasury bill, because a treasury bill is restricted to 12 months. If someone like Chairman comes to you and tells you, I can offer you a treasury bill for beyond 12 months, that's a red flag already, because treasury bills are 364 days. For long-term investments, like I said, I'm saving for my retirement. I can go into a pension fund. That's long-term, because I'm not going to have access to the money now. I'm going to have access to the money when I retire. If I'm saving for my child's school fees, I do an education fund. If I want to buy shares or if I want to buy bonds, in as much as if I buy shares today, I can sell them tomorrow, it is you need to find a buyer for that. So that is why shares will be more on long term than they are short term, because on how quickly you can access money in that particular investment vehicle.
Is it possible to consider short term under 12 months, maybe 6 months? Can that be considered a short term if we're speaking investment?
Yes, it can. It can. So, like for instance, treasury bills, they start from 91 days. So you can get a 91-day treasury bill. But what I said before is you look at the return. If you're offering me a huge return in 2 days, what are you doing? Unless there are rituals or something that we're not aware of. But what are you investing in that will give you such a huge return in 2 days? So you have to be realistic with these investments. You have to be realistic. Can a 2-day give you that kind of money? Ask those questions. But in 91 days, 6 months, that's short term. Yes.
I'd like to speak more now into the significance of financial literacy. And we know from the conversation that we've had here that there's a high prevalence of people being scammed, a lot of fraudulent activities that are taking place within our communities. But with regards to financial literacy, what can one now consider in identifying credible investment opportunities?
So identifying credible investment opportunities. First of all, what are your financial goals? What are your plans? Most investment advisors, first of all, they advise you based on your financial goals and your risk appetite. Okay? That is then going to inform what you should invest in. Your financial goals and your risk appetite. So you need to be very clear from the start. What are your goals? That is then going to inform what you should invest in. What is your risk appetite? Because the higher the return, the higher the risk. That's what people need to understand. The higher the return, the higher the risk. So those are things that you need to look at and be sure of before you actually take a step into investing.
Other than the Securities and Exchange Commission sensitizing the public on identifying what can be considered as a scam, are you also going out to educate people on how they can be financially stable and literate?
Yes, we do. So every time we go out, right now we have a team down in Chipata. We have a team in Ndola as well. Every time we go out, we just don't talk to them about scams, but we also talk to them about investments. We tell them about the different types of investment vehicles that are found in the securities framework. So we have shares, we have bonds, we have collective investment schemes, we have so shares, bonds, collective investment schemes. But one thing that actually we want to now start tailoring for people is I can't go to Shangombo and tell them about a share. They might not understand it. So we now need to break it down further to products that they can understand. For instance, in Chipata, we have a lot of people that do agriculture, and they actually do warehouse receipts where they store their produce in a warehouse, and they need the money now. Probably they can't wait for FRA. They need the money now. So the owner of the warehouse can pay them the money and they store. By the time FRA is coming for you, you're going to get the difference of what you paid and what, So you try and now break down a product to them, because in our act we do cater for warehouse receipts. It's a capital markets product. So we now need to get to a point where we can break down some of these financial products in such a way that a person in Chipata or in the far rural areas can understand and can engage and participate in the capital markets.
Let's conclude with this. So, as you have conducted all these sensitization programs, activities, educational ones, with regards to financial literacy and impacting the community with knowledge on how to detect fraudulent activity, have you any success stories from the education that you and sensitization that you have pushed out there into the communities?
Yes. So last year we participated in, we were doing, so we do this provincial debates for colleges. And I'll never forget this young man. One of them stood up and actually confessed. We were in Livingston during the grand finale. And he actually confessed as to how he had been scammed. And he did this beautiful poetry where he was now explaining how, with the financial education that he's gotten from the SEC, he's going to make better choices in future. That is the kind of success story that we want to hear from the public.
Indeed, Mrs. Chikasuka Phiri Jere, Securities and Exchange Commission Acting Director, Enforcement and Legal Services, would like to thank you for giving us this insightful feedback on how one can understand investment risks and recognize red flags. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show, and we'd like to thank you, the viewer, for joining us on this episode of Money Mysteries. And our focus was on just that, understanding investment risks and recognizing red flags. And if that is the case with you, if you need to understand more, be sure to pay the Securities and Exchange Commission a visit. They'll be glad to have you over and help you understand further. Remember that you can catch this every Thursday at exactly 5:30 p.m. That's 17:30 hours, all the way till 16:30. All the way to 18:30 hours at 6:30 p.m. My name is Justin Mulenga. Coming up shortly is the Diamond News Desk at 18:45 hours, so stay tuned in.
My family has always been a generation of dreamers. That's why when I saw how my little boy loved to play with kites, I knew it was time to stop dreaming and start investing towards a reality that would make my son's dream to fly come to life. When it comes to investing, it doesn't matter how small you start. What matters is that you start. Because I invested in something long-term, my son is no longer flying kites.
Good morning, passengers. Welcome aboard this flight. I'm your pilot for this flight. We have got taxi and we'll be taking off in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Money grows. Be a part of a generation of future investors by investing in stocks and bonds on the Zambian capital market. The Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting investors in the capital market.
What is greatness? For Ruth, greatness is Barbara Banda. But to be great, one must fight and not let anything get in the way, so that tomorrow we become great.
For her to be like Barbara Banda tomorrow, I make sure I protect her today.
Trust Hygienics to protect your everyday. Hygienics. Protection today, greatness tomorrow.
So how can can you get clean and affordable energy? How can you avoid plastic in your daily life? What kind of jobs are there for you in a green economy? Echo Africa shows you people and ideas that improves our lives and the world we live in. Get inspired. Echo Africa.
Today,
start big
with Big Tree
Cornflakes.
Big Tree Cornflakes.
The end of your journey will be big. Stay on your feet, chase to achieve. Give it your all and just believe that it's gonna be big when you start with Big Tree Cornflakes. Start with big today. Big Tree Cornflakes. Remember to always keep it, do it in whatever you do. Do it, keep it in whatever you do.
Today, the best maize grain Zambia has to offer are perfectly toasted into golden flakes that pack a big crunch. Today, start big with Big Tree Cornflakes.
When the city winds down, we turn the volume up. Introducing After Hours with Luendo. The ultimate music video mix show that keeps your night alive. From the hottest ambient hits to the freshest African vibes.
Open your eyes, baby. Can you be wise? Cause I'm a bride, baby.
We're bringing you back-to-back bangers, exclusive mixes, and non-stop energy. From Ladies' Night on Wednesday at 22:30 and the weekend warm-up on Friday. Don't sleep on it. After Hours with Luendo is where the real party begins.
Good morning, welcome to the milk